Meeting of the Rockland Fire Protection District Board of Trustees, regular board meeting for April 8th, 2019 to order. Trustee Snowland.
Here.
Trustee Grum.
Here.
Trustee Rogers here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, have consideration of the minutes of the regular board meeting of the Rockland Fire Protection District for March 11th, 2019 and the special meeting on March 20th, 2019. Are there any changes or amendments to these meetings? Trustee Snowland?
No.
Trustee Grum?
No.
And I would ask for a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented. So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Grum, second by Snowland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Attorney Brian O'Connor, please, would you commence with the opening of the bids for the building? Anybody who would like copies of these bids after the meeting, we are more than happy to make copies and you can take them with you.
This was all the bids received by 4 o'clock on Friday. I just kept them all together. One submitter submitted 2 bids, one he mailed in and one he hand delivered. And what I've got here is a register that I'll complete as we go through it to indicate who has submitted what. So, bid number 1. This is the one that was the two bids. Received, let me open it up, just because I said it on the outside, the guy said it doesn't mean it's true. Bid number 1 from Gallery 200, the number 200 LLC. Hey, Klugian, K-L-U-G-I-N, the manager of Highland Park, dated April 3rd.
You said gallery what?
Gallery, G-A-L-L-E-R-Y, space the number 200, space LLC, from Highland Park.
Okay.
Please construe this communication as purchase the bid the real property commonly known as 14 Skokie Highway. My officer to pay the sum of $760,760,000. Purchase the property in full compliance with the terms of the sale, contingent on the ability to obtain from Lake Forest Bank a loan and trust. So, I'm going to record that. I believe this is the second copy of the bid from the same company, but I want to confirm that.
It's going to be your
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want to get a kid. Brian's playing with a knife.
You really go stabby crazy. Yeah, same thing. Gallery 200 LLC, Clujian, same date, same language, same amount. Everything is the same. And when he hand delivered this one at 12:03 p.m. on the 4th of April, he told me that he had mailed one and it came that he had mailed it and it came that afternoon, so after he hand delivered it. So put these two together. A ditto. Number 3. Delivered on April 3rd. I wasn't in the office, but they took it. Water Street Partners LLC of Lake Forest. That's what the envelope says. Now I'll read what the... Okay. Trusting an attorney with knives is not always the smartest thing to do. There's no paramedics in here. Okay, dear board, please find my formal bid containing 2 options for your consideration. The bid presented is the name of Water Street Partners LLC. So Water Street Partners LLC is the bidder. I don't care about a personal background. Here's the bid. Water Street Partners LLC has 2 options for the board's consideration as defined here. Option A, Rockland, buyer. They note they can term with the terms of sale listed in legal notice, which was the resolution is required by law. Buyer submits the following. Purchase price is $670,000. Cash offer. This is option A. I'm going to detail both options. They agreed to allow the district to use office space of buyer's choice at no charge. Provide to the district land lease. You can look at this in detail.
Office space for?
Provide the fire district office space of buyer's choice for a period of 12 months. That was our comment in the resolution that said, we needed the use of some office space.
Okay.
Or I'm presuming it's in response to that requirement. Provide land lease and utility usage for the community emergency notification tower in like 12 months.
Run that by me again.
I'll let you read it when we get done.
Okay.
There's some terms and conditions in here.
Okay.
That was so the key point on option A is $670,000 cash offer with some terms and conditions, which we included in our resolution. Option B, from the same entity, Water Street Partners LLC, purchase price $670,000, the same amount. There's a difference in how that's provided. A land contract, $350,000 down payment, and $320,000 60-month loan from the district with a 5% interest.
So explain that to me. So that would mean that the district would get 5% on its money? Am I reading it? Am I listening to that correctly?
Well, I'll let you look at it, but the way I would interpret it is they'll give you $350,000, the other $320,000 they would have the district finance at an interest rate of 5%. The total proceeds, they say, would equal $712,328. amortization with
Did you do
an
the math on that?
amortization schedule to be
Oh, I thought you
provided.
said, yeah, that's right.
I went, wow, that was in the ballpark. I can do that much.
Wow, that's impressive.
What was the, on the land contract, how many years was the payout?
60 months,
60 months, 5 years?
yeah. Yeah, it doesn't say what the, what the term of payment is, but if they specified a 60-month loan as opposed to a 5-year loan. But again, that details, the board can look at this. Provide the district with office space, land usage, the same other terms and conditions, the conference room. Okay.
Did the first ones spell out whether they were office space for a year or 2 years or 2 months or?
12 months.
Okay, so the first one was 12 months also?
First one's 12 months. I'll let you look at these. They were nice. They gave the original in multiple copies, so you'll each be able to look at it, but I just wanted to get the key points down on this.
Okay.
Okay, so that's bidder number 2 with, I'm calling it options 3 and 4. Next one in the hopper. This was received on Friday. It's another one from Water Street Partners. I wonder if this is another copy from the same person. It's what would appear to be, unless they submitted another bid. Oh. They have a third option. I don't know which takes precedence. This is bid option C. Same people, Water Street Partners LLC, bid option C. Okay, so the purchase price is $690,000 with a land contract of $370,000, a $320,000 loan, which would yield $732,320 with the amortization, and has the same provisions for the use of office space, et cetera, for 36 months.
Well, for 3 years.
3 options from them.
Hold on,
No,
so
the mortgage is 3 years rather than 5 years, but
the office space is what I'm asking.
Yeah, office space is 3 years.
3 years?
Oh,
Okay.
3 years of office space.
Well, 36 months.
Thanks, Brian, I was unclear on the 3 years and 36 months.
Brian,
Well, that's how they spoke it, so I'm assuming that would be a month-to-month. But okay.
what's the term of the mortgage though?
The purchase price is $690,000,
Right.
of which $370,000 would be a cash down payment,
Right.
and $320,000 financed at 5% interest, on a loan from the district, 5%.
How many months?
60 months.
60 months, okay. So it's
Very similar to B. You
yeah,
had
so how the
20,000.
purchase price and what was the split between the cash and the mortgage the same, or was that?
No, a little different.
Little
In
different.
option B, the cash was $350,000,
Looks like you bumped it 20.
and in option C, the cash is $370,000. $370,000.
But that's interesting because there's a value there.
Yeah.
1 year versus 3 years, right?
You're gonna be able to look at these.
No, no,
I'm just trying to document them for
because there's,
these purposes.
Yeah.
Would you care for any clarity? I'm the bidder, I can give you some clarity if you'd like.
you want to wait till we're done with all of
Yeah,
them?
let's wait till we're done.
Okay.
That way, you guys can kibitz about it, and if you
Kibitz?
have any
I don't
questions,
know if I've ever convinced before, but I'll give you the,
you're gonna start.
but there's,
Okay, this is the last one I received. I received this on the Friday as well. This is one of my secretaries up here. You can put the weapon of death away.
that's the weapon of death.
Okay. So they marked who it's from. Okay. The last option. Oh boy. Kellev House?
Say it again?
Kellev House, K-E-L-E-V, House 2. Kellev House 2 in Highland Park.
Okay.
Hold on while I make notes here. Kellev House 2, bid for the property per the resolution. Agree to all the terms, offering the amount of $652,525. And that's all it says.
Doesn't say if it's a cash or
It doesn't say anything other than that. And those were all the bids that were received. I'll throw all this together. There we are. Yep.
Is it advantageous to take a moment and make copies so we're all looking at the same thing?
Well, it's like some of them have copies in there
Okay.
already. I would say, you probably stay in open session and just hit,
Right.
trade them and review them, because we're gonna discuss, and if you wanna, if you need, because it's a contract, you've got to do it all in
So-
open session, so.
So Carl and Bob, I'll start off at least talking, and then you guys give me your thoughts and input strictly on,
you're out of order.
Okay.
In terms of the order of the items, not that you're not.
so you don't want to talk about it now? You want to wait till we get to the discussion?
Well, you've got public comment as number 5. and
Well, yeah, I was still gonna
discussion
have public comment, okay, we can,
We've opened the
okay,
bids.
fine. All right, public comment, the district allocates, for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the fire district on any matters not listed on the agenda, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Anybody have anything to say?
Yep. Can you spell it out, Brian?
I'm finally catching on. Got it.
All right, thank you. So as trustee-elect, I'd like to address the board. I sent the board an email on Wednesday of last week asking for some documents for some help in the transition into becoming board member on the district. The only response I received was from Carl Snowland regarding the minutes of previous meetings. Nothing else from 2 other trustees, and no other documents that I requested or any other assistance. I'd like to request the board to, while you still haven't reviewed the bids, I understand that, but to hold off on accepting any bids or moving forward with any sort of sale until the new board gets into effect. Me personally, I don't want to have my hands tied into something that I wasn't a part of, or that I honestly don't believe all the options have been thoroughly reviewed. There's no reason to expedite the sale of the building. The new board takes effect in about a month. These bids, I'm sure, although I haven't seen them yet, don't have an expiration date. The new board can review those and elect to accept them and move forward if they so desire. That's pretty much it. I do appreciate what you guys have done, and I'd appreciate it if you let the new board do the same good for the community that you guys did your best to try and do as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Going once, going twice? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Don Russ. I'd like to thank the outgoing board for a wonderful job. I think that years from now, with hindsight, we will see that the taxes of the district were at one level, and then they dropped, and they persisted at a lower level. I think that with hindsight, we're going to see that the actions that you have taken to entrust the district to two fire departments, Libertyville and Lake Forest, at this significantly reduced cost is going to be a wonderful benefit for the taxpayers and for everyone who calls 911. Contrary to the trustee-elect, I think that you should sell the building today. If that first guy is creditworthy, because his bid was contingent on a loan, his bid was $130,000 more than the assessed value of this building. That's tremendous. And we know it's competitive because we got 3 bids. So I think that the smart thing to do is to hand the new board the district on a silver platter so that future budgets will be 99% to pay the contract and 1% to pay for the lawyer and the website and nothing else. I think that would be a good plan.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing no more comments, we'll move on to discussion and action regarding the bids for the Rockland Fire Protection District building. So my question to the other 2 trustees is, you've got, I'm going to say 2 bids that at least we can make copies of, which I think would be good, but just in the opening, just kind of salvo discussion. This Gallery 200 has a bid for $760,000, and from what I understand, Brian, jump in and say no if I'm saying anything incorrect, please. Has 1 year of use of the office, of an office and the room here. The next closest, if we take 5% on our money, which seems like a good deal as well, but we get 3 years. The board gets 3 years of not only an office, but use of this this room for meetings and possibly to continue to use for elections for the community. The question that I posed to the 2 of you, can we put a value on the office and this room as to its worth to come up with a determination of which bid is the most advantageous dollar-wise to the district? Thoughts? Carl?
Conceptually, yes, but I don't know that we can pull a number out of our hat right here and what the value of that is. And so therefore, if anything you're going to do is just going to be a wild estimate on that, in terms of what it would cost to, basically the value to the district of having that space.
Bob, thoughts? One moment, please. I assume you're Gallery 200?
Oh, yes, Sam.
Okay. I'm going to ask to talk to you, and there's another gentleman over here. So I kind of want to have a discussion with Bob. Any comments?
Yeah, I think there's always been that concern about, and Carl expressed it at the last meeting, was where are we going to meet, what's going to happen to the voting, and I think it's important to the residents. They want that opportunity to be here. Certainly, we could hunt for another place to meet. We could tell the county to go find someplace else to vote. But I think there is value to having an office for the district still here in the community, and to have the ability to have voters come here and vote as they have for many years. What number I would put on that, it's hard to say, but certainly if we were to keep this building going, it would cost us several $1,000s a month just to be here.
Well, ironically, we happen to have a broker in the house. Matt, could you, with your expertise, would you feel comfortable giving us a number of what you think keeping an office and use of this for the district and for voting, that we could apply to that you would think would be a fair offer, or a fair number, excuse me?
Well, because you're going to include electric and gas in that too, so
Right.
I would say $1,500 to $1,800 a month. Because that's what you'd have to go pay to get a big room like this, another room, utilities, and all that. The only thing you'd be paying for is phone in your office, I guess, and internet service.
Mm-hmm. Okay. because Carl's a better cipher than I am, I'm gonna use this little device that I got here.
22,000.
So,
Can I just ask the realtor a question?
you can
Is
talk
that
to him later.
comparable space to this? I mean, it's a room, what, maybe 20 by 10?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, it'd be hard because you're throwing in the utilities, the taxes and everything else into that. Whoever buys is gonna have to pay taxes.
Absolutely.
So there would be a gross lease of $1,500 for an office and for this conference room.
Well,
With,
it's just this room, isn't it?
no, I know, they need a district office.
Right, you keep
Upstairs.
one of the offices either here, one of the offices that would be worked out with the board and the new,
So there would,
so if my math is correct, and Carl and Bob, please correct me, on number, well, I'm calling it number 3, because number 2 had 2 offers, number 3, or number, okay, Gallery had two bids, Water Street had 2 bids, and then Kelvin House number 2 was the low bid. So,
There was only one bid from,
Yeah, there was two
copies
of the same
bid.
two
I apologize.
submittals, but one bid.
one bid. So,
and 3 bids from Water Street Partners, but.
no, 2. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
there's
There's
3.
because there's a time value of money and an net present value difference.
Right, so if I did Water Street correct with the 3 years, using the low end of Matt's numbers of 1,500 versus the 1,800, I come out at a value of $768,000 over the 3 years.
Can I just make one point?
Yeah, I am, hold on one second.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
while you're thinking, there's.
Right, I'm
pieces that
gonna,
you're
I
missing.
want to have kind of a board conversation
Sure.
with both of you to be fair and let everybody kind of hash it out. I'm just letting Carl do some ciphering and Bob do some ciphering.
There is one thing, though, you're not adding in.
Oh,
That's why I'm
and right,
bringing it up.
and we will. We'll give you an option or an opportunity
Thank you.
to speak your piece, and you as well, sir.
Thank you.
Don't you think you should read the bids? I mean, like.
We did.
Well, no, there's terms and conditions that he said were in the bids and he wasn't.
Right, they had to
going
meet the terms that we put out. They're the same terms.
Yeah, the terms were 12 months for an office.
Right, one just added 2
Added
more
2
years in.
to it.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I understand that, but don't you think you should
Right.
look at them before you discuss them? Just saying.
Yes, sir. Could you please stand up and tell us your name and
Sure,
speak
my
your
name-
piece, sir?
My name is Hai Klujan, and I made the first offer. I would love to have you guys use this place as long as you need. The only issue that I had with it was the zoning. The way it's zoned right now is R3, residential. Now, a municipality for R3 is permitted to use this place for a firehouse or what have you. R3, they allow 2 dwellings per half acre. If I am the successful bidder, I don't know if the zoning will allow me to have a commercial zoning and allow you guys to have your office and the meeting and the polling. I don't have an issue with you guys using this as a polling place or even using one of those small offices. At our store that we currently have, we've let the board use it in the past for elections. Elections happen every year, once a year. It's not that much, so I really don't have an issue with that. But I purposely just kept it in there to the conditions that you guys were requesting. I don't have a problem helping the current board. The coming board, Knollwood, actually came out and helped my mother-in-law when she was having a stroke. So I am a little saddened too that it is leaving, but I would like to do whatever I can to help it for, for it going, because I think the tax issue is a problem as well. But that's why I just kept my, with the terms that you guys were requesting. I definitely am open to do furthermore if the zoning permits me to, because anyone who buys this will have to have the zoning changed. There's no one that could just buy this unless they want to turn it into a big house. You have to have this changed from R3 to GC, which both properties to the north and south currently have that zoning. They told me it probably wouldn't be an issue, but it's still a 3-month process. So regardless of whoever gets the bid today, nothing could be done for at least 3 months. So I just want to let you guys know that. I'm willing to work with you if you want an office upstairs or downstairs and the right to use this. Even if you want to do fundraisers for Knollwood or Lake Forest or Libertyville or something once a year, use the property for a fundraiser, car wash, whatever it is. I do not have a problem helping the community
Okay,
with that.
thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Mike Havey. I submitted the bids as part of Water Street Partners. I did take the time to put a cover letter to all the trustees. I know you don't have a copy of that right now, but that answers some of the questions similar to the other gentleman as far as letting the community use the property and so forth. The reason behind the 3 bids was I went back when I was preparing these bids and I looked at some of your past meetings. And I know one of the trustees had brought up a concern of when this bulk of money comes in, what's the district going to do with it and so forth. And so I got a little creative with financing. I'm fortunate enough, I don't need financing. I can write you a check for the full purchase amount. But I tried to look at what was in the best interest for the fire district, and that's why I also put a fairly, in my mind, a fairly generous interest amount of 5%. I don't think you're going to get that on a CD when you take the proceeds and put it in the bank. The other thing is your RFP called for the use of one office. If you look at my cover sheet and if you look at the options, when you do look at the options, I also included the conference room. So it was an office and a conference room. The other thing that is totally off your radar, but is on my radar and it is in my bid, you have a community emergency notification system outside. And for you to relocate that somewhere, you're looking at a pretty large expense, not to mention the fact that you don't have any property to put it on. And in my bid, I allowed 3 years of the use of that, having the right-of-way or whatever you want to call it, to leave that siren system in place, to pay the utilities for that, along with a conference room and an office. And after 3 years, no one's going to be thrown out. My business is building emergency vehicles. We work with police and fire departments every single day. So again, if you read my cover sheet, you'll see a little bit of the history of what we do and what our intentions are for this property. And we're looking forward to having a long-term relation. I think if you're looking for merely a cash high bid, maybe we don't meet that threshold. But I think if you factor in all the other conditions that we've attached to our bid, and then you also factor in the interest portion of that, I think we're probably coming out on top. And we can throw around any numbers we want. I know we have a realtor here that may have come up with a cost for the office space, but don't discount that siren, because that is going to be big money. The fire chiefs can probably address that as far as what's involved in moving that notification center out there. And as far as I'm concerned, that can stay there in the office. The headquarters for the fire district can stay here forever. I put a timeline on here because it's difficult to say in perpetuity, because if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't want my wife to have to deal with something that I signed for long-term, but certainly this would be a long-term relationship, so.
Brian, what are your suggestions from here? Should we make copies of the two bids and go through them? Do we?
Well, I think the trustees need to look at the bids, because
Okay.
ultimately you're gonna decide whether you're gonna decide tonight, or whether
Right.
you need to go back and review it and have another meeting to decide what you're gonna decide once you've digested it all.
Okay.
And in fact, I'll tell you, it's not unusual when you have a bid process like this, that staff will take the bids, do a side-by-side comparison, and they give it to the board with, after some period of time, and say, here's what we think. But just having opened them tonight, that we haven't done that yet.
Okay, do you want to have somebody make copies, or do we have copies to pass out of the two?
You have what I got.
Okay.
Do you want me to go back with somebody and make the copies, because I can tell you what they are?
Yes, please.
This one.
So let me go, what do we got?
I'm trying to get the right one.
Keller House.
Okay, this is the 6.7. No, I want the 690. I think this is the 690. That's the 670.
This is bid option A, and this is bid option B. Here's extra copies of that.
And there's bid option C.
I mean, only one of bid option C, because there's copies of that. So you've got those.
Okay, so put that up there. That's B.
This is A, B, and C.
Oh, this is A
and B.
This is
That's
C. So C is what we want.
Okay, and now we need the one from,
Okay, I've only got two, I have three.
correct, I need the one from Gateway 200.
Yes.
And from Gallon House 2.
Right, well, the Kelvin House 2 is not close to the others.
Well, if you want to look at it,
Yeah,
right?
yes. Okay.
That's in here.
So these you don't need a copy of, you need copies of Gallon House 2 thing, and what was the other one? The Gateway 200.
Where's that one?
Who's good?
Okay.
I need the copy or operator.
Yeah,
That's not me.
it's definitely not the outbreaking.
They don't have copy instructions in law school.
That's like fun to play with this one.
So I guess the only one we really need copies of is this one, and these two.
Is your bid contingent on financing?
Well, the other thing too is, I didn't want to lower the waters, I wanted to try to keep it as possible. I wanted to put in two offers as well, but if you guys are looking for, interest, and kind of he was mentioning, I don't have a problem, I was actually in line at 6%, but I just figured you guys want to design the pricing under it, but I definitely don't have a problem with going that money over to you guys as well. Doing it really either maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 to 5, however long you want. I have no plans of tearing down and redoing things or whatnot. If it was under use, and like I mentioned before, I'd love for you guys to use them if you find fit.
Well, it's,
If I could mention, Carl's not present, so I don't think you guys should continue having a discussion. without trustee Snowball present.
I can talk to whoever I'd like, I'm not talking to the other trustee, but thank you.
I
speaking to
understand,
this
but it's
young-
regarding the terms of the
I
proposal.
can speak to anybody I'd like, thank you.
I'm not, I'm just making an observation and
The
comment.
observation is I can talk to anybody that I'd like to, including you or anybody else. We're not coming to decisions, we're not discussing the contract, we're talking to this gentleman.
Yes. Oh, no, I know that, but that's why, more than my homework. And I said, you know what, I'll just do it. For 5 years. So that's why I wanted to make sure that it allows me to have meetings and conduct things, because R3, it says residential, I believe this was 6 acres. They allow up to, I think, 2 households for half an acre. And I wrote the rules, so I'm trying to.
Yes, both of them retail. Both places are zoned.
Are they, yeah.
Where are you currently located?
Oh, wow, you're down toward the city.
Oh, yeah, but I live up in Highland Park.
Yeah, you know what I think he's like.
Trucks, but I could use 40-foot containers as well. That's what I bring in for like office space, I can go on the west side. From office.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I guess I didn't expect to get 2 that were so close and so willing. I thought that, to be honest with you, I thought the use of the office space in this room would be kind of a deal breaker. I was kind of surprised to see 2 people that are both interested in it. It's kind of interesting. I had no idea what was coming in. So this has been interesting already.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
The off-road, is that crazy? People do some crazy stuff. My mother-in-law had a place.
But it's not a cell tower, it's
She had like the old baby blue. Was what she had.
Picture, but it's a little lighter than that.
Yeah, yeah, it's closer. Okay. Can the car handle it or won't twist it apart?
No, it's got a two-wheel front cam version.
No kidding.
Two-wheel control arms. Honestly, the frame ties are not. I can't really see it in all of these pictures, but the just zooms out. Passenger fender. It's not that loud. It's probably started. It's right there. I'm talking. It's quite. Where was that kind of conversation about?
Oh, no, it's like when you get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, having the same conversation.
Do both. But it wasn't,
interesting,
you
is when I
know,
was
it
called.
didn't ring or drums.
You need to find a turbo to put on.
Yeah, it's got probably about those keychain ones they got. It's not working.
The only, right,
That makes sense. You know how the cars have all the sound recordings linked to them, so it sounds like you really have to see
We have to
Those through the ones that you put
for one guy saying, oh, I'll do that too. Well, I'll do that too. Well, I'll do that too. Well, I'll be, you know, it's like, okay, where do we start? You know, where do we stop? How do we, where is the fair on this and where is the right for the district on this? And that's what I'm saying.
Matt knows that we don't start to what's on down. Because I know we
And appraisal at 6:30, I'm not expecting to see them, so I'm thinking it'd be 6:35, 6:40, you know. So I'm processing this all myself right now.
Well, at least you got a great
Yeah. Well, again, I haven't looked at them
So
side
my
by side.
daughter and son-in-law are looking at the neighborhood, we're looking at the house.
What they're offering is basically,
more than you thought.
yeah, but they're basically saying now,
Yeah.
They're opening up high speed.
I just
wait, but you're,
Both of them, this house,
I understand that, and again, I'm not picking on, I got no dog in this fight.
cut over to the train station.
I wanna hear what everybody has to say, so.
30 you drive in 5 minutes.
transfer like 1800.
And you're at the train every night.
Well, sure, yeah,
I'm going
They
every
could not
day.
believe it, because the realtor told me.
How long till the rail goes in?
Well, the rails all in, it's gonna take Yeah, they run the test runs, everything. I think probably now they're just doing all the logistics of hiring people to run the
Is it cost effective?
30 minutes to 5 minutes. And it's a heavily residential area, and most of the people work downtown. Or at least the area, I think it's downtown Denver. It's in Denver.
So it sounds like it's one stop.
Pretty much. Boom, it's like a test. If this works, then we need to make it.
They've probably increased commute time a little bit.
They are dying for someone to buy their house because they've found perfect house. Few of them has, it's like a quad level. And the master bedroom is with a balcony facing out there. And it's like, oh my God, and it's all kind of shaded. It's like
I just got a mental image of doing that. Thanks for that.
but all these levels down. It's a corner lot, so it's kind of lots, it's pretty and from what I've seen from her place-wise, it seems to be comparable to yours, though it appears that Colorado Springs has suddenly turned must join.
I used to be a golfer.
Which is good for them. Very good for them.
Now you're gonna have rain.
Yeah. Pretty big house too.
Here, you too.
She's like the fence. Four of them out.
When you want to have your
But our
kids,
big one is, they go in the house.
I can't think of her name.
You have paper? You have a guy who knows how to make paper.
You know, they've had quite a few people at their house. And I think some of them were 75.
So sorry,
Did I not send you
this
the
being lesser.
I'll send you the listing and you can see through it. Because it's really confusing. Day starts. And the thing is, so you could move it. You know, the roof is new. You just go on and on. It's got a big pool. Everything's new. It's great. It backs up to the park. I saw it's 52 acres exactly.
I don't see the conversation being water, street side, gallery.
It's really nice. Yeah, I'll find the listing. I'll shoot it over to you.
Yeah, like I said, I mostly not knowing what it was.
And the realtor thinks and they think that, because a few folks have said, oh, I like it, but we'd like to see the pool, which is totally understandable.
Right.
The weather has not been conducive to opening pools. So Kevin thinks that maybe this week he'll feel safe opening the pool, so I'll go over and help him open it. And it'll be nice shiny blue, and everybody will be there and they can see it. Even the pool cover has been used 2 ways.
Oh, sorry, yes.
You pay almost $2,000 for the cover. But you know what? They're cool. Danny and I help them like that. We help them close it. With 4 of us, it's an hour and a half to open. That's all. Nothing to it. And then as far as chemical wise, they don't use chlorine, they use some other stuff. And they let the people who buy pool chemicals from teach them how to take care of the pool, so they don't have the problems that other people have, which is pretty cool. And they keep a floater out there that has a chemical in it, so you don't have to mess with it all the time. It has a heater, but they only heat it. They know they're going to use it tomorrow. It's cold. They'll turn the heater on tonight. Some people turn it on. They're heating the outdoor pool. Where do you think all that heat's going, for God's sake? But you know, now they also sell these seasonal clear plastic covers that you just throw down. They don't fit perfectly, but you throw them just like float them on the water.
Yeah.
And you just grab the heat out of the sun,
Let's get your.
suck it down. Like Kevin's, and he traps it and heats it right off of that. But they sell them.
You got everything ready, Bob, to?
When I first moved in, they would open the pools when I first moved in. They did. But right now with them, they don't want to do that kind of stuff. And they would keep it open all the way to the turn the heater on.
You just announced that you're going to suspend discussion on this till later in the meeting.
Okay, we're gonna, because I know that the chiefs want to stay here for a while, we're gonna suspend discussion of number 6, go on to chief's report, attorney's report, treasurer's report, approval of the outstanding invoices, and then come back to this so that the chiefs can leave if they so like, and so can Tammy. So we'll just suspend number 6 and move on to the chief's report. Chief Karani, Chief Siebert, thank you both for coming. Any comments, questions, queries?
Just, do you have the monthly report from March?
I do.
And the one thing we added was the response time. So you see that total average for all the calls, there were 9 total for us in March. And then just to clarify on the response time, it is alarm to arrival, so that includes what they call curb time. So tone out your curb time, that's response to get to the vehicle, get dressed, and then from that en route time to arrival. So that's what that average includes.
Okay. Chief Siebert?
Yeah, we try to add the same thing and stay consistent, and you can see our calls are probably a little running a few more, I think, so that we've really kind of fine-tuned a little better of working together with Station 3 and our Station 1 of trying to coordinate responses, and with 2 different dispatch centers, we know it can be challenging, but we've even kind of taken it a step further where we'll actually get on the radio, switch over to save some of the phone calls, but our crews work great together. We've been working a lot together in Knollwood. We've been out on the tollway recently working together for some pretty serious calls, but it's really, I think, gelling and becoming out. We're getting a lot more efficient with the way we respond together.
Yeah, and I certainly think we expected that it will take a period of time to work all that out, so I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, Trustee Sullivan, any questions or thoughts? Any more? All right, Chiefs, thank you very much. Attorney's report?
Bear with me, let me make my notes here.
Okay.
I really don't have a lot to report. One, there's nothing new in Springfield other than it continues, and if something interesting comes up, I'll let you know. I'll probably email you first, but we haven't gotten anything. It's ongoing. The other thing, I handed out our latest summary of the expenses related to the litigation, and in March, I just looked at the billing sheet today. There is nothing added, so what I handed out at the last meeting was in fact the current one.
That's
Was
excellent news.
17,000 and change or something like that. But, that was it.
Okay. Trustee Snowman, anything for Mr. Attorney's report? No. Trustee Grum? No. Okay, Treasury's report. Tammy, you're up.
Current assets, Lake Forest Bank and Trust Capital, $36,451.76. Forest Bank and Trust checking, $308,595.69. Let me process this one. Did you catch that?
Nope.
Okay. Lake Forest Bank and Trust Reserve, $274,000 the year to date. 336.70 for total current assets, $619,384.15.
So the numbers are right, it's just, it's the
Yes,
middle
the
column.
previous, yeah.
The previous is the wrong previous, but that's not important.
So those are all up to date. The budget looks like we're on track. There wasn't any thing of the issue for 2019.
Okay, then if there's no questions on the treasurer's report or the budget tracking, can I have a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Second. Motion by Snowden, second by Grum. Roll call vote. Trustee Snowden.
Aye.
Trustee Grum. Aye. Trustee Rogers. Aye. Motion passes. Approval of outstanding invoices.
Current checks, $7,500 for Capital, Steiner Electric, $407. FK Construction for snow removal, $360. North Shore Gas, $586. Impact Networking, $135.50. Longy HEAC, $756 again, $136. One of the checks we had paid for the services last year was stale dated, so we had to reissue another check.
It's happened more than once, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You must not have a cash flow issue.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Comment, $389.99. North Shore Water, $29.99. Attorney's fees, $1781.27 for a total of monthly expenses, $12,081.75.
Before we go with that, during the April meeting, normally we would also approve at this time the annual payments to the trustees and the treasurer, which would be a total of $6,000.
Do you want to add that into that?
Yeah, just make it part of the approval of the.
So we just need a new total is all, right?
So $18,081.75.
And you'll cut the checks.
Okay.
Just one of those before the end of the fiscal year.
May I have a motion
It'll only
to,
take a week to go out.
any other comments? Trustee Grum? Trustee Sullivan? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the outstanding invoices as presented in the amount of $18,081.75?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Grum, second by Snowden. Roll call vote, trustee Snowden.
Aye.
Trustee Grum.
Aye.
Trustee Rogers, aye.
Yeah, this is one of the data. We'll make clear the name doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll, Tammy, I assume you'd like to leave?
I wanted to go to the store.
Okay. And Chiefs, I assume you, well, you can stay or leave, you can do whatever you want. We'll go back to number 6. And, Carl, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what's on the dollars and cents end of it as you started talking, so we can all,
Well, as I look at it, and, you know, as Mike spoke to on for his, my first thought was that the differences were really in, you know, the NPV, time value of money, what, you know, how much you're actually getting up front versus how much you're paying. But really, when I look at it, option C is definitely, even apart from that, option C has the greatest monetary value to it.
okay?
So, and in terms of, and I think Mike also expressed it, that, you know, a lot of flexibility, but if, again, if the purchase price, you know, $69,000 and he's willing to put down, you know, $370,000 at a minimum and possibly more, it sounds like that's flexibility, that's not an issue, that of those 3, that would be the one to focus on, and then obviously.
Your thoughts, trustee Grum?
I feel the same way. I think option C is the one to be considered, and the other one would be the Gallery 200. I think that would, if nothing else, we can easily narrow it down to those 2.
Okay, I as well, like option C on Water Street. So now, and this is just me speaking out loud, please feel free to jump in, both trustee Grum and trustee Snowden. And trustee Snowden, I don't know if you're willing to, it's clear to me that this will most likely move into the next board. I have to be completely honest, I never in my wildest dreams doing this RFP thought that we would come in. I figured our bids were going to be $635, $638, $640. The district, I think, has a very unique offer in front of them. Quite honestly, with 2 unique purchasers, but the Water Street being local, and I think the options that it brings are, I think this is a good move for the district. If the next board chooses to pull out of this or do whatever, that's certainly up to them. I will tell you that I did meet with trustee-elect, where the hell did he go? There he is. I apologize. Anderson, a couple weeks ago, and we had about an hour-and-a-half discussion of the past, the current, and the future. And as he indicated to me when we talked again, and this was just a very open conversation, that although he wasn't 100% in favor of the district consolidating, that clearly the building was not something that the district really needed to hang on to, and that leasing or selling would be a good option. So for me personally, I am prepared to accept Water Street Partners bid option C. Again, I'm giving everybody a chance, I'm just throwing my 2 cents out. Carl, your thoughts?
Well, a couple of things. When I said of the bid option C was the best, that was out of the 3 Water Streets. That's really just, taking it to that. The first thing, and I feel obligated to do this, and that is that I would ask for a motion to table this until the next, until the next board can take office. So I'm asking for a motion on that. And obviously, I'm not getting anything, because I really do believe that that is the proper thing to do.
And I respect that.
I really appreciate, the offers. I think they're very, very good offers. But I just don't think that this is the right time to do it, and to let the folks who have to live with this be able to deal with that. So, I would just, make the observation that Mr. Kalugin has, if I understood correctly, had offered to also allow for the use of the building. So if you look at it purely on a cash basis, he's offering $70,000 more.
Right, and I did look at that, and again, my thoughts on that are, I feel like then I could go back to Water Street Partners and say, well, he offered that, and then you had something else on, I'm trying to look at what was mailed in
we are committed to
and
that.
presented. I truly believe that both these purchasers have a desire to sit down with the next board and work out even a more lucrative, not lucrative cash-wise, but a partnership to work in the best interest of this district, which again, I didn't expect. I thought we were gonna get 3 people come in here and here's your offer and take it and get out. Or stay for a year and then get out. I didn't expect this, so, Trustee Grum.
And I know there was some discussion here, but as I clarified with Brian, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't at this point in the meeting start talking about, well, wait a minute, I would be willing to do that, and then somebody else can be, well, I can give you a higher percentage. And this is not a place where we start to auction it off. What we have to deal with is what is in the offers, what are in the bids. So, I'm looking at the Gallery 200 bid, where he bid $760,000, said contingent on his ability to obtain Lake Forest Bank and Trust a loan secured in the amount of $456,000. And he does say that he's I think willing to meet the agreements that were put in there, which I assume would be the 1 year or the 12 months that we had in the contract. So to try to expand on that now, I think is inappropriate. I think this is what we have to look at when we're making a decision.
That's all well and good. According to the numbers that you just came up with here, that that's 18,000, that's 18,000 a year, so that'd be 36,000, and that's still, so the value of the office space for 2 years is $36,000. This is a $70,000 higher bid.
Say that again?
Well, yeah, but are we looking at the interest on the remaining money on C and how that affects the total number? If we're getting 5% on the contract portion?
That's I think now you're kind of getting into the territory you just said you shouldn't. It's kind of the way,
No,
financing.
I'm looking at exactly what he's offering and what that ends up coming out to be.
The purchase price is $690,000. If you get $732,000, that's because of the fact that you're not getting the money now, you're getting the money in the future.
Right.
That's the net present value. You have to do you discount for cash. And that's what you have to look at, is cash to cash. So it's $690,000. yes, it's true, I mean, you could get a little kind of say, what is the interest that you could get? It's probably less than 5%, so there'd be a delta in that. But at the same time too, we're carrying a $500,000 mortgage on this building right now, it has to be paid off.
Well, that figure is actually 54,000 on the rent. If you take your realtor's opinion at 1,500 a month times 36 months, that's 54,000.
No, it's only 24 months, because 12 months is in every bid.
Right, and then also there is no value attached to the notification system.
But you're also assuming that zoning is gonna allow that, so I strictly went.
Right, well, you're both
dealing with that.
you're both rolling the dice on that.
No, as far as like, you may not be able to use this place after 1 year and 1 day for polling, because once he has his business in here, his zoning has to change. We both have to have
You
the zoning
both,
change.
but you're both under that, you both have a chance.
Absolutely.
Right, you're
But-
both, right, and I'm going way out on a limb here, saying that based on the location of this and the commercial on either side, and the fact that if you're both willing to allow to continue to have this being a polling center, I'm guessing the county's gonna be pretty happy with that. But again, that'll have to be for
And that's
you
why
guys to choose.
I only went with the 1 year, because I figured I may have to sit out on the sidelines for 1 year
I
before I
understand.
get my zoning, so, plus there's no other terms of closing gates and whatnot, so I did expect that there are gonna be other questions and answers that you're gonna need from both of us. I think both parties wanna do good for the community. I'm not figuring additional rent and what I wanna let you guys use, and, I mean, I think he'll even let you use the place, you know, indefinitely, as long as he owns it as well. But like he says, you know, something happens, we got hit by a bus, you know, it changes everything, so.
Right, but we can't, none of us can live in the unknown, so.
In the form of a question from the audience, what happens in a scenario where someone wants to get a loan and is willing to pay for a piece of property at a premium over what it was appraised at, when sometimes those institutions are reticent to loan to that amount when it's carried more? These days, you can't always add the extra money to it in order to be approved. What is the merit of a cash scenario? I never imagined today that you guys wouldn't be looking at an all-cash offer from everybody.
And one thing that just sort of just realized recently is there's a serious error of fact in the assessment. In that it states throughout it that this building was built in 1970, it's 50 years old, and it's only 17 years old.
Yes.
That's a serious, I mean, to me, it completely brings the validity of this appraisal into doubt. This building is not 50 years old, and in one place where he even goes on to say, oh, it's in such good shape that I'm only going to claim it to be 25 years old, and therefore it has a useful life is 50 years, therefore it has 25 years of remaining useful life. That's ludicrous. So, I don't know what this building is really worth, because to me, this is of no particular value. Again, this needs to be worked out properly.
Thought it was gonna be a little more clear cut than this.
When I did call the city and talk to them about zoning and whatnot, and they did tell me when the zoning was changed or for this use for the building. So I think if people did their homework and looked at the PIN numbers and whatnot, they would have found that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, because I kept looking at it, why is that saying that? And everything else with the other dates of when things were built or put or manufactured, or the generator, when that was put in, comes out to 17, 18 years.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. again, in the, it was 2002, the mortgage on the building was $1.4 million. Typically, we've been carrying, through insurance and everything, the building has been valued at about $2 million. I know that's way too high, but, yeah.
You guys didn't pay that bill already, did you?
What's that?
The appraisal.
Yeah, it was several months ago, but
Well, can I ask Brian a question from a legal standpoint? Can you even entertain bids that are based on a flawed appraisal? I mean, shouldn't that invalidate any bids?
This statement, making the legal conclusion that the appraisal is flawed, is based on a presumption. You know, it's an appraisal signed by a certified MIA appraisal with his license on it. Whereas something suitably sufficient to challenge that appraisal.
Is it a typo?
that's my next, yeah.
It can't be a typo
It's-
because
if-
of the way.
How do you know that? How do you know it can't be a typo? 20 years or 50 years? Maybe somebody made a typo.
The first
Think
time,
about what you just said, it can't be.
excuse me, Ron, the first time it was mentioned, it is possible, but then further, when he
Okay,
uses that
thanks.
date again in an analysis, expressing surprise that the building is in as good a condition as it is for being 50 years old, that would indicate that it was not a typo.
In
It was,
multiple places in here, he says it was built in 1970, and then he goes on to say, so it's 49 years old, but yet it's, you know, he would say it's about.
And what was your discovery of that, Carla, at what point in time?
It was mentioned to me, I know, a few days ago.
So here's the thing for the board. I mean, you have a certified MA appraisal, which is required by the law, on which to base your decision. We issued the resolution containing the terms for the sale pursuant to that appraisal. If the board is now has some concerns about the validity of the appraisal, in the resolution, we included the right to reject any and all bids. I mean, if you don't trust the appraisal, or if you do trust the appraisal, then you consider what you've got. But yeah, bring me proof. I have a certified appraisal, so I have an appraiser. That's the law. I got it here. I got an appraisal signed by a certified general real estate appraiser, Howard B. Richter from Deerfield. That's evidence. I mean, that's something, and that's required by law. That's what we couldn't do it without this. So, I mean, and if there's some concerns as to the validity of that, it's like, need something more, you know. I mean, I don't disagree with Carl, but where is it? And then it's up to the board. What do you want to do? If the board calls into question now the validity of the appraiser, or the accuracy of the appraisal, reject all the bids and, you know, kick it to the next board. And I'll just point out, while you're mulling over that, I'll point out, that, you know, in here it says, the sale of the property by the winning bid, if any, will be documented using the standard real estate sales contract form. As I mentioned before in another meeting, those are weeks at best in the offing for a commercial property, at best.
can I ask a question? Can you go back to the man who did the appraisal and ask for clarity? Because being a person who's never bought a fire station but buys commercial properties, there's a huge difference between buying a building that's 17 years old and buying a building that's 50 years old. And so I'm just wondering if you could go back to the appraiser and ask for clarification on that.
Well, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I still think, I mean, the appraisal was based on his review of the building itself. He was here and looked at it. He obviously recognized that did not appear to be a 50-year-old building. And I think his appraisal was based on the condition that he's seeing of the building as he's here. So I mean, if you change the date on the appraisal, I'm not sure that it would dramatically change the value of the building.
You don't know that for a fact.
No, you don't know anything for a fact. You don't know that it would change it, and you don't know what it would do one way or the other. Again, I thought that these were gonna be, I did not think we were gonna have something so close, and at that point, I have to go with what I read and what I'm seeing and what my gut tells me. And what I read and what I'm seeing for the long-term interest of the district and the use of the building and the future for our community of the Rockland Fire Protection District, I just have to tell you, my gut tells me bid option C from Water Street Partners. That's just my gut, and I'm certainly open to anything anybody else has to say.
Brian, could you get this fellow to certify by initialing, as you do when there are issues regarding a property, that this was a flawed piece of data and it could be corrected as part of the appraisal?
Well, I suspect, I don't know, I can certainly contact them, but I suspect that if we, we say, hey, look, in your physical description of the property, you say that the building was constructed in 1970, and we have a number of indications that suggest that's not correct. Do you want to go back and revise your appraisal? And then you get a revised appraisal, and then we bring that to the board, and then the board can decide what they want to do with the revised appraisal. Your bids, the law puts requirements. You got to have the certified appraisal in order to offer it for bid. Well, if we change the appraisal.
Oh, that's my feeling.
I'm not sure we're not back to square one.
Right. And Carl, your feeling is you don't want to do anything, right?
I don't.
I take that back. I apologize.
No,
I should not put words in your mouth.
I did not take
I apologize.
offense to that.
What is your feeling?
Well, my feeling is, again, is that there are too many very, very important details that are not straight to make a decision of this magnitude. And it feels like there is, to me, an extreme push to rush this through, which, again, I just do not understand. I think, again, we have, and I really thank both of you gentlemen for bringing these offers to us, but I think you would probably prefer that you were working with a board that wanted to do this rather than, how do you say, that wanted to do this and would be responsible for this. It would be a much more positive relationship than trying to just force this through at the last second for whatever reason.
Trustee Grum.
Well, I would say that, without the information on the appraisal, I certainly would agree that in terms of looking at the two bids as they stand, taking everything that they came up with in consideration, I would have been willing to vote on Water Street Partners bid C. I think in the long-term interests of the district, it makes the most sense. I think it was the most creative of the bids. The fact that he was to go into 3 years, 2 additional years to what we asked for, it makes a lot of sense in terms of leaving the district in the best financial situation. That would have been my choice at this point. I would be surprised if the appraisal were to change dramatically, only because of the comments that he made about the condition of the building, and I think that's what his appraisal was based on. But it is a little disconcerting that you know, that date was put in there, and I think it probably was a mistake. But again, like you say, we don't know for sure.
Right, and I'm not an appraiser, and I don't play one on TV, but the building is still the building.
I think that for me, the most important fact, of the error is, as you say, so it's 50 years, but because of the good shape, it has an effective age of 25 years. And a building of this construction should have a useful life of 50 years, therefore it has 50% of its useful life left, but it's only 17, which is like 66%. That's huge, when you talk about the useful life of the building.
Trustee Rogers, have a question?
Yes, please.
What is the current mortgage on the building?
The current mortgage is just, current outstanding mortgage is just under $500,000.
Okay, and not knowing how commercial stuff works, I'm assuming that mortgage payment's made, is there an interest rate on that?
Yes, it's a standard mortgage that I think we're at 3% right now.
3%? So you were talking about the option C, that would not pay off the full remaining balance due.
Not without dipping into the reserves that are.
Right, you've got the money to pay it off, and then you'd be getting 5% on your money.
Okay, so that's, there's no longer paying that 3% on what's owed, that would be taken
You'd be
care of.
getting 5% on the other side.
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, I just have 1.2, and I understand exactly what Trustee Snowland's saying. I think another way to look at it, though, is now both bidders knew the actual age of this building, so it wasn't like I wasn't bidding because I thought it was a 50-year-old building or whatever. I think the real point is that if somebody read that appraisal and thought it was 50 years old, in other words, why weren't there more bidders? If this was $1 million property that was only appraised at $630,000, why did you only receive 3 bids? The fact of the matter is, this is a nice building, but it's not a gem. This has some issues too, and let's not forget, the state can come through here anytime and take this building. And if I pay $730,000 for it, and the state comes in 5 years from now, they're gonna give me appraised value. Guess what? It's $630,000. I just lost $100,000. So I think you have to take everything as a whole. You know, I think the fact that there was an error shows that there wasn't much interest, because I could get $1 million building or $2 million building for $630,000. What a deal! That's a fire sale.
No pun intended.
But
Right?
isn't that even more reason to have the appraisal, make sure that the appraisal is correct? Because as he said, if it's only 630 and it's, the appraisal value is not correct, that they did do it on a 50-year-old building, then the appraisal would be much higher, potentially.
Well, yeah, but if he's looking at it as a 25-year-old building.
Right.
And
But
it's
it's not a
really,
25-year-old building,
no,
it's a
it's really
17-year-old building.
17.
Right.
We're not getting 630, we're looking at 730, 760, so it's way above what the assessed value is, according to him, based on a 25-year building. So on a 17-year-old building, we may be looking at an appraisal of about 730.
Right, if the offer was $635,000, I would go, eek. But it's not $635,000, it's well over $100,000.
I think whatever he were to change it to is still not going to exceed what the bids that we're getting.
I have some concerns. From a legal perspective, I have some concerns. The law says that it's sold based on an MIA appraisal. I just heard a number of comments and various discussions saying, concluding that the appraisal contains errors. The law also says that, the law also provides a limitation that requires the board sell the property for not less than 80% of the appraised value. If in fact the appraisal has errors in it, regardless of whether, inadvertent errors, it doesn't matter. if there's errors in the appraised value, I think the law requires that we get a corrected appraisal, so we know what the real, true appraised value is, so that we can ensure we comply with the law and do not authorize the sale for less than 80% of the appraised value. They're just listening to all this, and everybody's saying the same thing. There's a mistake, there's a mistake, there's a mistake. 50 years is not 17 years, 25 years, whatever, there's a mistake. The law is pretty clear, and I got it here. I mean, provided, however, that the sale price may not be less than 80% of the appraised value. Well, if we don't know what the appraised value is, what do we got? A big goose egg. And that wasn't me saying that was an error, that was a number of people. I have concerns. And I'd be certainly happy to contact Mr. Richter and say, yo, Mr. Richter, we have this document. However, the board of members of the public and the board of trustees brought to my attention that contrary to the assertions in your appraisal in the summary on page 1, page 12, and page 14, the building was in fact not constructed in 1970, but reportedly constructed 2002, whatever it was. Would you care to?
How would he adjust that?
He'd probably have to reissue a new one. And it could be because he's got the base documents, and I wouldn't expect comparables, change, because other buildings are other buildings, and the pictures are the pictures.
Yeah.
But you have caused me to call into question his opinion mark for the appraised value. And the law says we can't sell it for less than 80% of that. Well, I don't know what are we selling it less than 80% of? If in fact it is more,
Yeah.
if all of a sudden it goes from 630,000 to $1 million, then 80% of $1 million is 800,000, then we're out of the law. We're not complying with the law. But if it's less than that, then maybe we're okay with it. I don't know that right now, because I don't have an appraisal.
But doesn't it also, it affects the buyers here who are putting their bids out? They're doing their bids, they're gonna have to go to their bank, and all of a sudden, if
It's not fair to the buyers.
it's not fair to the buyers.
Right.
No,
I've been in that situation.
I have a lot of properties, I don't care if the property is 500 years old, if it's maintained right. I'd rather have an older building than a newer building that's made with inferior products. So to me, I don't even care. I looked at that, I knew it wasn't right to begin with. It's common sense for me because I have other properties, I've looked at it. I was looking at what you guys are putting in the RFP, and you said must be 700. So
No. That was just an example of how I wanted it spelled. I didn't want to say just cursively or numerals. I just said,
Yep.
here's a number.
If you take into consideration the 3% that you guys are gonna have to be paying on the difference of what him and I are gonna be putting up, you have to consider that amount first before saying, oh, well, this is 38,000 extra in interest and whatnot. Plus, the reality is, it doesn't cost $1,500 to rent one little office, because this office, if you're using it once a month, you can't count that as an entire lease. Like, you won't be leasing a property and only go in there once a month to use it. And you go to the community centers and you can lease places for $200 an hour. So you're not really putting apples to apples when you're making the comparison. If you wanted us to both make other offers, I think we could, or all of, or cancel it, however you want to do it, but I'm just thinking that, out loud with the way that you guys are presenting this, you need to consider the amount of money down minus your interest, and then going forward, what the difference of 5% versus your 3-point-some% from the bank is. It's 1-point-some% over 3 years or 5 years. You know, I'm obviously going to put in their mortgage contingency. I don't care if it's through them or you guys. I just put that in there. But I think either choice is a good choice for the community. I'm just a little puzzled now because if you want to sell the building, I think you have two great people that want to do it. If you want to wait till the next board, I personally don't care. I'm not in a rush.
Thoughts?
I guess at this point, I don't think we have much choice. I think we need to probably, I mean, can we hold these bids until the next meeting in May?
I'm gonna ask an inappropriate question, but since we have to do an open session, I'm gonna ask it anyhow. Since we have two bids that are so comparable and close, and we need to get the appraisal updated, or that's your suggestion? Okay, just hear me out. So, could the timeline include you getting a hold of the appraiser, getting an updated appraisal, and getting it to both of these gentlemen? And could they, because they're the two so close high bidders, look it over and decide if they want to hold their existing bid or they want to change it? Am I breaking a law here? Am I doing something inappropriate? Am I doing something that's not proper or right? I feel like I want to give them both an opportunity. I have to speak to my lawyer, please. Well, okay, you're not a lawyer, and I love you to death, Linda, I truly do. Please let me speak to him, okay? Because I don't know the question I'm asking. I'm not sure where I'm going with it. So I'm just asking for your assistance. I'm trying to be fair to both these gentlemen.
Well, I mean, one of the requirements in the law, my thing, is that the appraisal has to be made public. Well, everybody. As I sent it to Matt, Matt gave it to everybody's got it. Well, if what we're saying is the appraisal is flawed, then I think we have a statutory obligation to provide the correct information to everybody. And I would tell you, it's not only these two gentlemen, it's also Rockland House too, because they submitted a bid as well.
And that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you need to get an updated appraisal, an accurate appraisal.
Okay.
Let me just phrase it that way. I don't know what else is in there. But this could be, it may not be a significant change. It could be a significant change. I'm not an appraiser. That's their job. But the law says it's got to be based off of certified appraiser. We've had enough questions raised to call it into question, and everything is based off of that, including the limitation that says thou shalt not sell for less than that. I don't know what less than it is. Could come back at the same value, I don't know. But I think we need to have that, and once we get that, then I think I think we have an obligation to send it to the three bidders, because it's only fair that
And
they
allow
have
them
the
to resubmit?
Well, I mean,
I'm asking, I don't know.
I don't know, I gotta think that through, because essentially what you're doing is you're keeping all the terms, are we keeping the terms of the resolution, the terms of sale, the same, except for the appraisal? To me, it sounds like we are. I don't know.
It does to me. Carl?
I mean, yeah, except for one thing, and that is, you know, Mike bringing up about
The zone.
no, not the zoning, because that's what I said, we're selling the building as is. No, the emergency notification system. That may need to be dealt with in the
Okay,
resolution too.
so then perhaps what we need to do is get a new appraisal, do a new resolution, do a new publication, send it out and ask for a rebid.
But if you do that, then you have to also, in the appraisal, say, with somebody else owning that, with somebody using one office here, and somebody using this conference room, you know what that appraisal's gonna come back at? Substantially less than that amount.
Could be. Well, and that's,
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. But I think it is,
No.
Appraisal is just the value of the property, not.
Yeah, but the value of property, if it has, I'm trying to think of the right word,
like,
contingencies of,
I had no problem letting them use that infinity, that tower. I mean, it doesn't take up a parking spot, doesn't bother me. I did not put that in my contract because it just kept to everything the way that you guys wanted.
Understood.
I wanted it clear and clean. I didn't want to murky the waters. I wanted to put multiple offers, but I didn't. But with the appraisal, too, did the appraiser know that this building is only gonna be used, providing that the buyer is gonna allow them to have an office here, conference room here, and a tower there?
I don't.
That-
but those are not,
change the
what you're saying is that's not assets to the building.
Oh, absolutely not.
I
It's
agree with
liability.
you, and that's why I'm agreeing with you. I-
But I have
But that
common
doesn't-
sense.
that
I
doesn't
figured all of
the
this
fact
out.
that the
I
appraisal's
made my
wrong.
No, it also
offer
doesn't
how I
change
wanted to.
the
I'm
value.
sure
of
he
the
did.
building. It's-
He seems like
it's what
he
people
wants to go in the
pay
right
for,
direction.
given the
You
appraisal
too, I mean,
companies.
both seem like it's
But the building is still.
pretty good, but if you wanna get technical, then the whole thing should be redone.
isn't that what I just said?
Allow it, yeah. I mean, you wanna be fair, it's not just him, me and the other person, it's in the entire world, because if there are ignorant people out there that never walk the property, say, oh no, I can't buy a firehouse if it's 50 years old versus 17 years old. You know, I don't want people coming back to me 6 months after I am in here and say, oh, this shouldn't have happened. I don't want the other city members to be mad at me and people breaking windows and doing things. The fire station should have stayed, what the hell are you in here for?
Right, understood.
The-
Yes, sir.
The reality is that this all diminishes the value to my bid. Because we can renegotiate whatever we want in public here and verbally, but I'm the one that thought of that siren. I believe the board never even thought of that. I think I blindsided with that. So that was value to my
But
bid.
the siren wasn't in the offer, I mean, I thought.
That's part of my bid. That was
Okay.
part of my bid. That was part of my condition, that the siren gets to stay, and there's value to that. I don't care what anyone says, there's an awful lot of value to that. The RFP also said the district office. It did not say the conference room, but I knew you used the conference room. So the value to my bid had that also. And then the other issue is, we're talking about polling places and everything else. If you look at my cover letter, that was in my bid too. That was, so, you know, pretty much, I'm unzipped here, pretty much,
Yeah,
with all of my.
yourself and
So-
everybody is
So
aware of
the
it.
idea is those were all valuable things to my bid, and as one trustee said, it was a creative bid. And so now we go back to the drawing board.
I also.
Just for your gentleman's edification, paragraph G states, "The board reserves the right to retain use of the administrative office space for receipt of mail, file maintenance and storage, public meetings, and retain district business for 1 year from the date of sale."
Correct.
So you've all
No,
addressed
and-
that, but it's public meetings.
Right, but it never addressed the conference room, it addressed the district office.
In mine,
for-
I mentioned
Administrative
that in there as
spaces.
well, but the thing is, you're asking just for 1 year, that's what you said.
Yeah.
If you asked for 10 years or 5 years, I had no issue with that. But I did not put anything different than what you were requesting. I spoke about that to Matt and other people here, but, you know, I didn't do it. I just said, you know, I think this is what I feel
I
I'm
understand.
gonna understand and
I
put down.
hear you both loud and clear. So,
And I just want to say one
Linda?
thing. Usually voting facilities are not private businesses.
you're correct, and that's something that would have to be addressed with the county. They're both just saying, if it were allowed, they would be willing to help out.
That's,
So that would be, obviously, have to be something that the county would approve,
and
so.
that's why I only went with 1 year. So
I got you. So you're basically saying, or I think you're saying, that legally, you don't believe we can entertain any one of these offers tonight, is what you're telling me.
I don't think you can,
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking.
because, I mean, we've called into question the validity of the appraisal. And everything is based off of the appraisal. I mean, everything is based off, the first thing it says. You may by resolution authorize the sale, the value of the surplus real estate shall be determined by a written MA appraisal. And you've now called into question the validity of that, so. And I agree, I mean, I think to be fair to everybody, and you're right, it's not just the three who submitted the bid, who they may again, I mean,
Yep,
who knows, but you send it out,
there could be investors in New York, Canada,
whatever.
and they could,
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, if you want me to contact him, you know, I could do that. And just say, hey, you know,
I don't, trustees Grum and Snowland, I don't see an option other than contacting the appraiser at this point.
Well, there is one other option, and that's leaving for the other board.
Understood, still contacting the appraiser, you've paid for something that's incorrect. I'm saying they need to be.
Yes, I mean, I think that's reasonable to try to get that piece of it.
Go ahead, Bob.
If the appraiser were to say, yes, that's a mistake we made on our part, but that was not a deciding factor in the value of the property, and he would stand by it as staying where it's at, then is there any issue with proceeding with the bids that we have? Or even if he said, well, yeah, I would probably raise my appraisal by 30,000, something like that. So where,
I think that's a question, you're asking me an appraiser question, not a legal question, because what's the value of property if you keep or don't keep the siren? I don't know. What's the value of property if you keep or don't keep an office space versus a conference room versus a whatever? I don't know. But I'm not an appraiser. I can go to law, I can go to court and argue until the cows come home, but that don't help me with appraisals. You know, and that's why, but I you know, I take it to the point, it's not fair to them to not know what the real deal is, you know?
I know what the deal is. I mean, I don't even get inspectors. I'm my own inspector.
But I mean, we need to have a level playing field for everybody, and we don't have that.
And I agree with that.
well, can we just postpone a decision on this until the next meeting when we get information on the appraisal?
Go ahead, answer that question first.
I get, you're not acting, I mean, it's based on an appraisal, which we need to check the validity of. I mean, you could always defer action, I mean, it says you don't have to accept any, but nothing says you have to accept one tonight either.
Right, is it inappropriate to ask the two bidders that are here that we're considering if a change in the appraisal matters to them?
Not appropriate.
Okay, well, that's why I'm asking you,
Not
I'm not asking them.
Yeah, not appropriate.
Okay.
Let's see if there's a revised appraisal.
Okay. If the revised appraisal hypothetically does not change the appraised amount, if he comes back and says it's still worth $630, if he doesn't change it, you know where I'm going, are these bids still good? I'm asking, I don't know, I'm just, yeah, I'm not,
I'm waiting.
okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I gotta think on that one. You're asking for a legal conclusion right now with so many moving parts.
I agree. I'm not being fair about what I'm asking.
No.
I admit that. I'm
But
just
then
asking.
you also need to have another appraisal based on the occupancy by the district here for a minimum of 1 year. Because nobody could technically change things or do things, because if you're allowing the contract to provide a place for you guys for 1 year, that buyer cannot do anything that's gonna jeopardize you guys from using this place.
So what I think I'm hearing you saying is that the attorney, along with notifying the appraiser that he's made an error, should have him include in his appraisal the issue of the siren
Well,
and the
yes.
use of the office space.
Office space, conference room.
I strictly went based on what you guys asked.
That's not gonna have an effect on real estate. We're talking about real estate here.
I agree. I agree.
What I had brought up was the value to the district.
Yes.
Not adding value to the real estate.
Right,
It's-
not
it's
adding
an
value to the real
overall
estate.
package to the district.
If you're gonna buy a property and there's a $100,000 lease in place versus a $10,000 lease in place, absolutely that makes a humongous difference to the price of the property. So that, right now,
Maybe
they're
the
asking-
purchase price, not the appraisal.
Purchase price.
The
not
purchase
purchase
price,
price.
not the appraisal.
Yes.
The appraisal.
Right.
It won't affect the appraisal at all.
Right.
Well, do we defer a decision until the next meeting when we get updated information on the appraisal?
I don't see what else you can do.
You need a new appraisal.
Well,
And it may be a
correct
reworked appraisal, but you
Correct.
need a corrected appraisal. You need a correct appraisal.
Okay. and
Because
you're-
that's square one.
and
Without a
you're-
correct appraisal.
You're gonna make that call?
I certainly am able to do that.
Okay. All right with that?
All right, so then we'll make a motion to defer action on the bids until the next meeting.
Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll second.
All in favor? Discussion action of the May meeting, I think we should keep the May meeting in place.
I think we should keep the May meeting in place.
May 13th?
Yep,
Obviously, I disagree.
okay.
Are you gonna set a special meeting for May 20th?
Yes,
Oh, you have to, yes.
yes.
Yeah, that one has to occur, right?
Well, that's by law, you
Yeah.
take office.
So the 20th will,
It'll be a special meeting.
and the 13th is
Okay, then may I have a motion to adjourn at 6:51 unless there's any other board action? So moved. All in favor? Aye.